So was that 31? Yes, 32. Okay. So our very first level of review happened last week. And that's part of what has resulted for this number. So guys, we have you left, and we're quite expectant. You do the needful and your best, and we'll be drilling in more. So the mentor, okay. More work. Ideally, you should be, working full time on your project now or transiting. So those are very strong. All right. So much screen. So this directors, welcome. And Mr. Barrister Bayo Omole is managing partner at Matrix Solicitors. He runs a law practice thriving and has in Lagos and Abuja. Has over 18 years of legal career advising national corporate entities and individuals across business sectors. Legal we also Israel energy is both broad and deep. He's featured in Global Who is Who, Legal as a specialist in the natural resources, energy, oil and gas sector, and also has been with FI Abuja since last year, mentoring, providing support, legal support to our founders. Also joining us is Ifedi Eze, who is Managing Director of Founder Institute in Lagos. He's a trained lawyer and experienced business strategist with a demonstrated history of working in management consulting industry. He's certified in intellectual property management from the Harvard Law School and skilled in negotiation, business planning, entrepreneurship, strategic partnerships, and team building. So welcome to our mentors, and we're delighted as usual to have you with us. So the links of the mentors are in the chat box, so you can connect with them on LinkedIn. They'll be setting up their office hours to have one-on-one sessions with you this week and beyond. So the goal of today's session, which is the legal and IP session, is to set your company up properly, set up your company and the required legal framework. And as you know, incorporation of a limited liability company is mandatory for all founders in the cohorts, and is mandatory and is a requirement to graduate, is a requirement to receive, to be able to be investment ready. Yes, because investors will not invest in business names. It has to be a limited liability company. The lawyers will share more about that with you during their presentation. So they are going to talk about why it is important to have a legal entity. They'll also talk about the best practices in setting up a legal entity. Also, how to pick a law firm to work with and how to effectively manage your law firm. I hope you also understand that it's not every law firm that knows how to engage or how to deliver services to technology companies. So you'll also be learning or hearing from them about key legal concepts that a founder needs to understand, the key agreements that you need to operate a technology company, and how to identify and protect your intellectual property, how to manage regulations, and how much the law actually matters to your business. So basically, they'll be talking around that. So welcome once again to everyone. I think I can see Ifedi just coming into the room. Welcome, Ifedi. Good to have you on the at our session today. Always such a delight. We already introduced you in your absence. Well, I guess introduce yourself again. So that's it. So we'll just be going into the working group reports as is customary. And then we'll have the hot seat and the mentor presentations and then Q&A. Our hot seat will take a little bit of a different dimension today, Mr. Shegun. All right, so that's it. So please welcome everyone once again, mentors, founders, and let's get the session going. Thank you, Mr. Shegun. You're welcome.
Thank you, Lady A. So, founders, let me start by saying thank you. It's wonderful to see. This is the time of the program I really love. You know, when your numbers are reduced, and hopefully they'll reduce more. So we'll take the working group reports now. There are two working groups, the Empowered and the Explorers. So let's start with the Explorers. John, unmute and let's hear your report. Explorers. John Uzo, sorry, John Uzo.
Hi.
Yeah, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
So let's have your report.
Okay, so we got the message this early this week. So we've decided to meet at least twice a week. Although because of the epic sprints and the assignments, we couldn't make it to meet before this meeting because we wanted to discuss this meeting. So we're like, okay, this training rather. So after this training, we should meet at least once, but desirably twice before the next assignment so that we discuss follow up on our assignments, progress on the assignments, and then for incorporation. So basically, we'll be meeting as usual on Zoom and sometimes impromptu using WhatsApp. And then we're also encouraging even meeting in person. So anyone that's available and in the same city, it would be nice if we can meet at least once in person. Also, in essence, we haven't done much, but after this training, we will be geared up to do many more things.
Okay, so I'm interested in one of your goals, pushing each other to meet deadlines on assignment and other requirements. How do you intend to do that?
Yeah, so we just Oh, no. So it's basically, checking up on the other person. Have you done your assignment? Why is it taking you so long? Because personally, I was affected by my assignment. I was going through it not the wrong way, I would say, until I spoke to a member, a partner, and it was like, no, this is how I did mine. And then work of like 3 hours was cut down to, an hour. So it saved me time. So checking up on others, have you done it? What do you need? I can provide you this information. Why don't you try this? And so on, to make it faster rather than doing it alone.
Okay, thank you. The next working group, EMPAD, Barnabas Ako. Thank you, John. Barnabas.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
How are you?
Very good. Okay, basically for the EMPAD group, we selected a president, and our meeting times are Mondays and Fridays, 5 p.m. And we'll be meeting on Google Meet. So basically that's what we have arrived at. So our first meeting is going to come up this Friday. Thank you.
That was very brief. Did you send in any report?
Yes, I sent the mail. We were meant to send a mail of the selection of the president.
When did you? Yes, you were meant to even send in the report. Did you?
No, we were meant to send an email on the selection of the group president, the meeting times, and the strategy on how to make the group successful.
So basically,
that's what was contained in.
And the contents could literally be transmitted to be a report.
Okay, if that means,
So
that means I can say I've sent a report. That means because I've sent the mail outlining.
Send the mail.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So how has it been?
Well, it's been very tasking, but we've been working on assignment. We've been reaching out to others, discussing sometimes personally, sometimes in group, on how to go about the assignments.
Okay. I think your report is very shallow, but I'm hoping that by the next session I'll get something a bit more detailed from you.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you, guys. We'll now move on to the next item. Now, today was supposed to just listen to the mentors present and ask questions, but we thought we'd just put in the hot seat in it also. So we'll be having the hot seat here also. I'll be picking 3 of you randomly, and you'll be having 1 minute speech, 3 minute speech, sorry. You'll be having a 3 minute speech with your slide. So I hope you all have your slide decks on. You can mute yourself, Barnabas. Okay, beautiful. I hope you all have your slides on, because I can pick on any one of you. And I'm actually looking through now quickly. So my eyes just goes to, maybe I should start with the first group president, John Uzo. John, I hope you have your slides ready.
No, my slide is not ready here.
Why aren't you prepared?
We were told that there wouldn't be.
Why aren't you prepared?
We were told that there won't be hot seats today, last time. So I'm just hearing that like.
Okay, so I can just imagine we had a surprise for you, and there was an investor sitting here right now. So you see, you just lost it. Emeka, don't tell me you've lost it also. You were not ready.
No, I can present.
You can present.
Yes.
Then Binley, get ready. After Emeka, Binley, get ready. And then I see Abubakar trying to bring out a very serious face. So you're the 10th person. Smile. I like that smile. You're not ready. Your slides aren't ready. So I see Lawrence smiling, giving me that big smile. Listen, there's not going to be so much. Just relax and enjoy yourself. You've made it through this far, so I think you need to give yourself pats on the back. So Lawrence, the third person. Lady, are we okay with that selection? Emeka, Bailey, and Lawrence. Are we all ready?
Yes.
Okay, let me start timing. I'm coming, just a minute. Emeka, you can start sharing your screen. Catherine. Okay, so your time starts now.
Zutubai is a handshake between e-commerce and delivery. So we built an e-commerce platform that wasn't taken off at all. People just showcased their product and we couldn't sell because of delivery difficulties. The high cost of delivery and the difficulty in point-to-point and last-mile delivery, the fragmented nature of the delivery space and lack of reliability had affected this particular industry. So what we're planning to do is to aggregate easier, faster, and reliable logistics using location maps and other technologies to make delivery easy. Now, our platform currently have over 500 sellers, and because they couldn't sell, now we are speaking with over 100 delivery companies in the last mile area. And by the time we upgrade our application to have this, it will not just have our e-commerce platform, but other businesses. Guess what? This would affect over 30 million Nigerians who shop online, and the market is huge. There are three use cases in our scenario. First, people who will go to our online shop and buy their products. Then at the point of checking out, they will choose the delivery company based on this and rating. The second use case are those who just want to deliver products from one location to another. So they enter the product, choose the location after choosing the delivery company they want. The third use case are companies who would put our API on their platform so as to have access to our delivery services. If we continue the way we are, we will not make sale. But with this delivery add-on, we'll be able to close down 60,000 transactions and 90,000 deliveries. And what that means is that from the seller's part, through commission and subscription, we'll be able to make $420,000 in 2023. And then for the delivery companies, we'll be able to make $560,000, all amounting to $1 million in 1 year. And by the time the e-commerce signups increases, they will actually increase that of the delivery, and delivery would also impact on the e-commerce. And with affiliate marketing model, we'll be able to drop down our customer acquisition cost. It's a huge market. For the e-commerce, it's $810 billion. And for the delivery market, it's $440 billion globally. In Nigeria last year, it was $69 billion, and we're targeting $13 billion in the next 3 to 5 years. Where we are different is that we are cheaper, and then we are an aggregator. So our delivery will have a more robust collection services than any other one in the chain. Our go-to-market is to focus on these delivery companies as well as the sellers to hit our targets. I, in fact, with over 7 years of coding experience, I have an MD, web developer, and logistics, and we're looking forward to hire additional 5 workers with this following skill. What we're looking for is $1 investment, and we'll look for that you invest and make this a reality. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I was just going to say your time is over. Okay, thank you. Ifedi and Bayo, I don't know if you could help us with reviews. By the way, all mentors could go to the review link and just score them. But for the comments, let's take comments from Ifedi and Bayo. Ifedi and Bayo, let's comment on this Zutubai.
Well, this sounds like a very decent initiative. I think he's got competitors in the market already. I couldn't really see your SWOT analysis on that slide because it was quite fast. It slid quickly. I mean, I didn't see your comparison and what is the only thing I picked from that was that you're an aggregator. And yeah, this is the slide. Considering that there are quite a number of people in the market already. have you checked the market capture of these other people in the areas you're looking at? Have you seen where your own niche could be? I can't see that in this presentation in terms of figures, right? I'll ask you a very simple question. This Zutabai, have you registered the trademark?
Okay, so it's a name that we just formed. It was formerly called Show Your Trade before I started this program, and it's actually registered, but it was last week that we formed this name and the logo. So I hope to register it very shortly.
That's quite important, because the moment you gain some mileage, you just find another Zuta cell. You know, you'll be struggling. So the point is, I like this, but there might be a little more work to do to convince anyone, considering the huge, I mean, there's a whole lot of players in the market now. We need to see what do they cover now. What, I mean, I would like to see, not we, I don't know what others would like to see. What part of the market share have they captured? How significant is their reach? What is the gap? Right, sorry, I didn't get your target market is this.
Can I answer, sir?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, so as at last year, in Nigeria is about $69 billion market already, and all of these players are there. One of the things that is happening is that a lot of them are fragmented. Everybody's just facing their own, especially in the last mile. You have different small players that are offering services. So what we want to do is that we are not exactly creating our own delivery service. We are aggregating all of them. We want to serve even these big guys. So by the time we collect all the last mile delivery companies, for instance, in Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, even the big guys, the Jumia, the God is Good, would also even use this service. They will also plug into it. So we are just an aggregator, and that's actually where our strength is. The beautiful thing with it is that we would be able to aggregate, if for instance, you want to deliver something from Abuja to Mina. So a last mile delivery will pick it up from your house, take it to the park. Then a point-to-point delivery will take it from Abuja Park to Mina Park. And then another last mile will pick it from Mina Park to the house of the person you're taking it to. So on the platform, you see that chain, which nobody at the moment is doing. So if we bring all these things together, it will bring competition, because every delivery person has the privilege of setting their price. And you find out that it will be cheaper than God is Good, it will be cheaper than Jumia, and even them would find that they may have to start using our services.
All right. Another quick question. Why did you change your name from Show Your Trade to Zutabai? Okay,
so when I started, Show Your Trade is a 3-syllable word, and it served as if it was only focusing on sellers alone. And right. So in the course of this program, there was the need to look at making it shorter and more memorable. So, and that was where I came up with up to over 50 names. And in the process of discussing with the mentors, Zutabai kind of appealed to everyone. It looked more exciting and has a lot of energy. And that was why I narrowed down to Zutabai.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ifedi, you want to jump in on this also? Ifedi.
Hi, Shegun, good evening.
Yeah. Comments for Zutabai.
Okay, so I just have a question. I already posted a comment. I'd like to have officers with him, sometime later in the future. Okay. But looking at your market size, I'm just curious, how did you arrive at the $13 billion market size? As I would assume this is your share of market. So is this, are you looking to acquire this? This is the size of the market you're looking to acquire, and in what time frame?
Okay, so we actually did some market research and realized that the average revenue per user is around $40. And so by the time we did the calculation from this $69 billion, we said, okay, let's target at 25% of the served market. The reason is that by the time we aggregate all of these different delivery companies, it affords us the opportunity to take a share of every of their transactions. So I would like to just show you a little of this pricing model. So when you see this, you see that there is the basic where we plan to take 20%. At first, we started at 30, but we noticed that during our customer interview, 30 sounded so much. Why it is 20 is because by the time we would have paid Google service and all of the other services, the price goes up. And this is actually the price range where
sorry to button. So who is paying this 20% of delivery fee?
Is the delivery companies. From whatever they set as their price, will take a share out of it. And so for the ones who want smaller percentage, like 10%, they will pay a subscription fee to be able to get this value, and we'll give them other offers like ability to change prices. They will join some affiliate marketing program. They have ability to bid for bulk orders, and they'll participate in some form of decision making. So that would give them this additional value with the subscription fees that they will pay. But if they won't pay this, they will stay with 20% delivery fee. So there are two ways this can go. One way is that we set a fixed price, just like Uber does, and then take 20% out of it. The other way is we give them the liberty to set their prices, and we'll take 20% out of it. So these are two cases that we are still testing to know which model that will fit.
But those two options you just mentioned are actually two different ways of saying the same thing. But that's the model is a little bit interesting, and like I said, when we meet officers, I'd like to, because I'm wondering how this will affect the margins of the delivery company, seeing that they already operate within very tight margins, if you are aware, especially for some of them who have high redundancy rates for some of the assets that they have in their kitty. So, I don't know if you're looking at all of that, but it would be nice.
Yes, we are. We realize that instead of them just doing 1,000 delivery in a week, if we give them, let's say, 20,000 deliveries in a week, that value addition will add up so much.
Zutubai, I think you should connect with Ifedi during the office hours so that we can. You guys, Ifedi would have so much to ask, and then I'm sure even Mr. Bayo Molly would also, because it's also looking at your incorporation. So please connect, and all other founders too. Please pick from these questions that are being asked and understand why you need to get lock these guys down for office hours. So who is the next person? You can stop sharing your screen now. Great.
Thank you.
I think it was Billy. Billy, you were the one, right? Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, your time starts now.
Good morning. My name is Billy Oluwada. I'm the co-founder of SMS Protect. SMS Protect will start with our application to mitigate the loss of credit information and credit access due to successful smishing attacks. Our mission statement is to give back control of data and information to the owners. The problem we're trying to reduce is the increase in the loss of assets, financial record, and personal record due to the increase in successful smishing attacks. Statistics shows that from 2012 to 2016, there was 720,000 successful smishing attacks, and from 2020 to 2022, there was 434 million successful smishing attacks. Other statistics show that 85% of smishing attacks on mobile devices do not involve emails, and these mobile devices are where most Nigerians store their private information, their credit information, and also have transactions. My company, SMS Protect, is a SaaS mobile application that can scan a user's SMS, check the context of the SMS, check any embedded leaks in the SMS, and alert the user of any fraudulent SMS. Features in SMS Protect is a well-trained deep learning model to improve the accuracy and performance of the application. This deep learning model checks the context of the SMS and checks for any smashing pattern, and also a URL checker to check that the links in the SMS are not known for fraudulent activities. This is a prototype we had, and it was able to successfully detect smishing attacks when we're testing with users. So the addressable market size for SMS Protect is $3.94 billion. This is the market size for smartphone security in Nigeria. The business model we want to use for SMS Protect is a subscription model, with the base being premium and the max being gold, with the base having 10 scans per month and the maximum having unlimited scans per month. Compared to our competitors, SMS Protect is, we differentiate ourselves from our competitors by not checking just the user's phone number, but also checking the SMS that they are sent with, the links in the SMS, and making it user-friendly. Our go-to-market strategy is to create market campaigns for mass awareness, create some social engineering, partner with social engineering awareness communities, and partner with telecos, banks, and smartphone companies. We plan to become a full-fledged cybersecurity company by 2024 and a data recovery and data assurance company by 2025. My team and I have over a decade experience in software development, data science, and mobile application development. We also have a supervisor with over 20 years experience in finance and startup development. We're asking for $150,000 to kickstart our marketing campaign.
Thank you, Benny. Your time is up. So I'll take comments from Mr. Israel Aye and Ifedi again. So Israel Aye and Ifedi. Ifedi, you can go first.
Hi, Shegun. I'll pass on this, please.
Yeah. Comments for Benny.
No, I'm saying I'll pass. I wasn't really attentive. Yes.
Oh, okay. Israel.
So it wasn't very clear where I am as well, to be honest with you. And I was hoping that Ifedi heard him, and being a veteran, he'll be able to basically put him on the
veteran.
You know, so unfortunately, I'm not able to quiz this very well. It's sort of muffled out. The other speaker was crystal clear, but perhaps my first comment really is the sort of muffled over the thing, and I don't know if it was network or something, but I didn't hear it very clearly, to be honest. I was straining my ear to try and hear, yes.
To get it, okay. But Bayo, did you get his presentation?
I did.
Okay, any feedback for him?
Yeah, essentially, I'm a little confused as to how effective this can be. Now, this is a solution that's supposed to be a sift, right? Between the avalanche of text messages we get and then funnel it through your app, and then it percolates and then takes out the ones that, in the opinion of the app, are fraudulent. What is the error margin? What's the chance that it could flag a very useful text as fraudulent? Now, when you talk about context, the context in which a text message is presented, I presume you're using algorithm, like you gather, text messages historically from different scammers. Yeah, but what if scammers develop new context as it happens every day?
Yeah.
If it is that one or two that's passed through your app that are new, how effective would you call that app? Why would...
Sorry, can I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay,
so from an investor's point of view, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking if I spend money on this and I have 500 and out of the 490 are authentic, the remaining 10 that are not authentic, right? 8 of them use and the same parameters that many text messages have used, the ones that your app has recognized, but only 2 seem very authentic because they've not been captured, or the MO, the language, the context has not been captured as part of your database of tagged messages. And only those 2 pass. And it's those 2 that clear my account.
Okay, so part of the feature we have was a deep learning model. So we don't just have like a database. What that model does was it learns over time based on new things that I will also get database from, like get data from sets from around the world based on new happenings like every 2 months to upgrade the performance of the model. So the model is like a self-learning model. All you have to do is keep giving it newer data for it to learn. So there's actually a margin for there to be error. So that's why any slide, even if the message is not 100% detected as a phishing attack, to still notify the user. So it's not going to 100% just like take the message away. It will notify the user that this SMS seems fraudulent, so that the user can be cautious on how they interact with that SMS. So for it to reduce that kind of rate, we are going to have to like train it almost like every 3 months or 4 months to increase like the performance. And also the model is able to self-learn based on things it's analyzed and things that we've given it. So I think there will be some margin of error, but I think it will be very small due to the fact that the model is a model that can able to like self-learn and all, like what I just said. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So thanks a lot. So more learnings there. So third person.
Okay, but probably just based on the conversation I've had.
Okay.
And if it's been said before, please forgive me. Well, what's your business model? How do you make money?
So the business model is going to have like a subscription. Yes, I got the question for the business model. So the business model is going to be like on a subscription base, and we'll have like 3 different subscription methods. There's like the freemium, and the freemium has like a limited amount of scans per month, and also there will be ads on the application for like a premium model. Then there will be like a premium model with like 30 scans per month, and also there won't be ads on the model on the application. Then the final model will be like a gold model where there will be other features and also unlimited number of scans per month.
Okay, so my question is the technology you're using proprietary, or is it off the shelf, or what sort of technology are you employing? And if it's proprietary, my question is, have you taken any steps, or do you plan to take any steps to protect it?
So it's proprietary, and we actually gotten like a patent to protect some aspects of the application, like the basic things that the application is going to be able to do. We actually patented it so that it's protected.
So my final question is there competition in the market, and how do you stack up against the competition?
Okay, so for Nigeria, our basic competitor right now is Truecaller. There are also other competitors outside Africa, but they really don't yet have like a branch in Nigeria. So the one in Nigeria is Truecaller, and the way Truecaller does their analysis now is based on numbers. So they check the number that says this SMS and check if those numbers have been flagged as fraudulent numbers. But the way we separate ourselves is because some of the people can create numbers in like 2 days, and you can create a new number and use it, and people won't know that that number has been blacklisted. So we do it by checking the SMS, checking the links in the SMS to make sure that the SMS is safe for the user. So that's how we differentiate ourselves from Truecaller.
Okay, so I think let's move on so that we can, the mentors will still present for you, and then some of these things we can push them to office R. So last person, mentors, you could just observe, listen to the pitch, so that we reduce the Q&A till the Q&A session. Okay, so last person, Lawrence, that's you, right? Okay, I see you're ready already. So your time starts now.
All right, thank you. My name is Lawrence Atta, and I'm a founder of Lotus for Technologies Limited. We're building Paylidates, which is an escrow payment service. One of the things that we have been able to find out is that an overwhelming 76% of Gen Zs prefer to shop offline due to issues around brand trust and security. And part of this issue, if you look at some data from e-commerce complaints about transactions that has gone bad on Instagram, just Instagram, not talking about Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok, or any other social media network where people sell. We have over 350 million naira worth of complaints that has gone through those platforms that has been marked as fraud. So what Paylidate is doing is to protect loss of money, online sales fraud, and portrait disputes management. Our solution is to provide an escrow service management that is going to protect buyers and sellers whenever they transact online. And this is going to be done by providing a dispute management model that helps effectively manage dispute and creates a channel for easy refund between the buyers and the sellers. And so they are able to manage these transactions properly. The Paylidate product, it's already live, so it's running. It can be tested at paylidate.com. And what we have done is that even though we launched our MVP in October 2021, we were working with a very close circle of users, just about maybe around 20 people. But then in May this year, we relaunched again and got about 200 signed up users up until date. And we also raised $10,000 earlier this year in May also, and we have partnered with Providence Bank and Your Rider Logistics, and also Flutterwave to help us in taking these services out to the market. Our business model, what we are looking to do is to charge escrow fees for every transaction, and we are charging 3% for every transaction. That's an estimated 500 naira for every transaction if a transaction is going to be around maybe 50,000 naira or so. And then we have other models that are not going to be active yet, which is going to go into soft loans and other extended services that Paylidate is going to be offering. The market size is about $8.5 billion US. That is for the retail market. And even though we have the potential of going fully into the payments market in the future, which is about $570 billion US, we are just going to be focusing fully on the retail and e-commerce payments right now, which is about $8.52 billion US. And what makes us stand out in the market?
So your time is up. Thank you. If you want to have a go at him. Ifedi. Ifedi, do you have a feedback? Okay, Israel or Bayo? Can't hear Ifedi.
Okay, I like the idea of this very much. For the simple reason that as a lawyer, I mean, I understand the first slide very much. There's a lot of fraud everywhere, whether in real life or online, in real life or virtual. I did a transaction today and I was saying to myself, my goodness, because the thing wasn't delivered in time, and I started to panic. And I was wondering, okay, what if this was fraud? It doesn't matter that it was a UK transaction. What if it was fraud? And I started thinking to myself, what if there was somebody to take the money until I got my goods? So this basically just comes in smack, on the plate. But why should we trust you, Lawrence? Escrow services are what we are used to as lawyers in transactions, in commercial transactions. But that escrow agent is usually trustworthy, demonstrably so. So why should we trust you? I can't see that yet.
Okay.
Maybe they can allow you finish your presentation, but
yes.
I can't see you.
Okay, so one of the things that has been put in place to make sure that any fintech service out there, any fintech product out there helps to do what is actually coming out to do is compliance and regulatory. Yeah. And once you are compliant, you are regulatory compliant, then anybody that is going to be using your service know that you're accountable to the government. You're accountable to the government. We have NDIC insurance. We have the license, which is the lender's license that we're supposed to have. When all these things are put in place, it means that if anything happens to anybody's transaction or anybody's money, they can safely report us to the government or report us to any institution that has been put in place there to check us, and they will be able to hold us accountable. So they should be able to trust us.
Okay, well, I'm okay with what you've done so far, but I can't see the full picture. So maybe at some point.
I think an officer with him would really help, like most other, because I'm saying this, Omole, you're looking at his explanation and you're no, you've not hit the target. So I think you should book that officer house with him and see, try and convince him. Believe me, if you convince a lawyer, you could convince anyone in the world.
All right.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next session, which is the mentors presentation. And as the mentors present, please, founders, take note. You could drop your questions in the box, and we'll take questions during the Q&A session. So, who is going first? Bayo, right? Okay, sorry, Lady, you want to say something?
Sorry, I was. Yes, so listening to all the pitches, you all have not done very well with time. 3 minutes on the dot. So you need to please go back, continue practicing. 3 minutes is 3 minutes. Okay? So please take note of that. And then Benle was reading, you were reading your slides. That is a no. Okay, the very first part you were. And then your slides, your present must be easy to understand. Okay, you've been receiving feedback on that, so I want to see improvement on that. So, and this goes for everybody. Please, 3 minutes is 3 minutes, and simplify. You just need to get out the key, the key points, the secret sauce in your presentation and the idea. So that's very, very critical. Please take notes. Okay, thank you. And Benle, you need, and Afolabi, you are low on office hours. Since we started the program, I see that you've only attended office hours 7 times when your mates have done 20, 25. So, and that is impacting on the way you're presenting. So we need an improvement on that. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Fayomole, are you ready for? Are you ready for your presentation now, Catherine? Okay.
All right. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be here. I'm meant to be speaking to you on, well, thank you for all of you that presented earlier. I mean, it's really encouraging to see people come up with ideas and chase them. Those that didn't present, I can see that even though you weren't called, there's going to be quite a bit of incentive to work on your own stuff as well. Anyway, so but what I've been asked to talk about in this short period is legal and intellectual property ramifications and implications for what you're trying to do. And my first question, or maybe second question to the first presenter, I forgot his name now. Yeah, was whether Zuta Bai was the name actually sticks. Zuta Bai is the fact that I wanted to know if he had registered the trademark. So next slide, let's just breeze through this quickly. Yeah, I heard Zuta Bai mention that he had registered, he just registered that entity. He had not registered the trademark, but the fact that he's registered the entity makes a lot of sense, means he knows what he's doing. He knows the advantages of registering the entity. I did not get to ask the others whether they did, whether they have done that, but I'd imagine that they are thinking along the same lines. Why should you register your business? You have spent so much time to think about a unique solution, especially mainly, I mean, all of you generally, but I can see the rigor that has gone into this, because what Bele is trying to do is not something that's everywhere. It's just extremely, extremely difficult, but I mean, the higher the stakes, the what you call it, the pole vault, the higher the bar you have to scale, perhaps the better the reward. But it requires a lot of thinking through. But all this hard work that you guys have done, you need to put it in an entity, a vehicle. Why should you register the vehicle? If you look at this slide, perpetual succession, you own your business. If you own it, there can be succession. You can, your children, your children's children, that third, fourth generation. If you look at the Lebanese, third, fourth generation businesses ongoing. Exploitation of owning your property. You own a piece of land, you can sell it. You can mortgage it. You can use it to raise cash. It's the same thing as registering a business. It's an asset. It becomes, a limited liability company, which is risk management. Why limited? If your company runs into trouble, there's a company we're dealing with now, two companies we're dealing with now, one individual died. And within a week, all investors, everybody is exposed to a 16 billion naira, debt that they didn't know existed in last 2 weeks or thereabouts. That's what some people have been so unfortunate to be running about over, like me, in the last 3 to 4 weeks. But if this fellow, of course, limited his liability. If he did not limit his liability, his personal assets, his family, everything will be going down for this debt. But, of course, that happens only if there's no fraud. Because if there's fraud, those things will go, I mean, his assets will still be liable. They will still be liable to seizure. But for risk management purposes, limited liability company structure protects you protects a company, protects the individual from the businesses and vagaries of the entity. Nigeria has policy somersaults. You need to be sure that things don't happen that throw your company into, the red. And if they do, when there's life, there's hope. You will continue, you move on to other things. Competition and opportunity, you can raise capital, transfer shares, you can Of course, mergers, you can acquire, they can acquire you, all sorts of things. You can raise capital easily. Next slide. I've got 13 slides, so I need to run. So this is the same thing, passing off. I mean, you know, I mentioned Zuta cell, you know, that's passing off, right? Everything here I have mentioned. Next slide. Some people can actually try to push their entity when they see that your business is doing well. They can try to push their entity as their business. Sorry, push your business as part of the business of their entity, and that results to loss for you. Choosing the law firm because you need advice. The firm was able to give legal advice and explain in plain language, not in all sorts of Latin and you know, grandiloquence or big grammar like Obaya Agbon. And you should just speak English that you can understand and can solve your problems. The second is expertise. You've seen the 3 R's: ratings, reviews, referrals. The third, client care. What is it about? Is it going to damage your business? Are you going to get into debt, significant debt, before you start? That doesn't mean you should not recognize the position, the status of advisors and the fact that they too advise for fees and that they must survive. And of course, how responsive are those lawyers to you? 2 days ago, somebody said they would send an email to a lawyer. 4 days, they are yet to respond. So they sourced another lawyer. Unfortunately, those lawyers, I know them because I am them. So competence, I don't need to say anything about that. You need to look around and see the people that can really advise you and satisfy your curiosity and make you comfortable and let you know that, you know, your work will result only in profit. And in the unlikely event that it results in a deficit or there's a dispute, they will be able to look at it and take care of it as well. Next slide. Legal concepts. We've talked about legal liability, limited liability. What separates your entity? Incorporation separates you from the other entity, from the entity. So if the entity does well, you take a benefit. But if the entity doesn't do well, your liability is limited. It's a win-win. So there's no discussion on that. What are the basic contractual terms? You have to understand those. Everything in life. A big lawyer once told me when I started practice that there's nothing new in this world. Call it aeronautic engineering, I mean, space law, call it anything. It boils down to the concepts of offer, acceptance, consideration, intention to enter into legal relations, which is what we call consensus ad idem. The two parties have their minds met. What are they agreeing to? Somebody wants to buy, another person wants to sell. Somebody wants to release money and he wants to be sure, he needs the assurance that what he releases money for, he will get the product. That is why somebody is saying, let me escrow it for you. Somebody wants to keep his, somebody wants to protect his subscribers from spam text messages. He then contacts Binley, for instance, and says, look, I need your app. Can you let me know how much you're going to deploy this and how effective is it? Binley will go into what you call service level agreement with him. That look, in every 100,000 text messages, if there are 10,000, if there are 1,000 spam messages, my app will detect 9,600. There's an error margin of 400, but my app will detect 9,600. When Binley deploys his app, if his app detects 9,800 out of the 9,000, out of the 10,000, then it's done great. But if his app detects only 9,000, then the person that subscribed, right, the service provider that subscribed to your app will begin to have a rethink about whatever, because the contractual terms have not been met. So you must understand that when you're going into this, you must be able to deliver what you're saying you will deliver, right? And you know, that's what offer acceptance. What am I accepting? I'm accepting these terms, right? And offered in this way, right? And we want to be bound. It's not, we're not friends. We're not friends. I mean, somebody once told me, bill everybody, bill your mother, just give her half price, you know, because she's your mother. She sent you to school. You know, it's not about friendship. Friends are friends, business is business. You go into business, have an intention to create legal relations. Don't say because it's my cousin. No. Or it's the Oba of my town, it's the Obi of my town. No, it doesn't exist. But it's my pastor. So, a lot of pastors have defrauded a lot of my friends, by the way. So create, register, and protect intellectual property rights, right? I don't think I need to explain that. The first question I asked Zutabai was, have you, or second question, was, have you registered that? Why? I told this story. When Vodacom came to Nigeria several years back, several years back, what happened? We knew they were coming, and some sharp boys, some wise men from the East had gone to register Vodacom, Vodacom logo, right? And Vodacom came, they actually bought a company called Econet. Some of you may never know what was called Econet, but it is now called Airtel today. It started as Econet. So they bought into something called Econet then, and they came, and some wise men from the East had actually registered the Vodacom logo. Vodacom logo is known everywhere in the world. And Vodacom arrived and said, no, you can't have that logo. It's our logo. They said, no, where is it? We own it in the registry. They asked for $200,000. I really don't know how much they settled for, but they did pay those boys to release that thing to them. So why don't you don't want to fall victim of that? You want to immediately, you know, once you start having value in your own head, once you think your product is beginning to gain, you know, so some of you have passed MVP stage, you must, even before MVP stage, advice usually, go and if you believe in your logo, in your brand, right? Start thinking of registering it, right? Compliance framework, of course. There is a framework for compliance in EdTech. I was asking this gentleman, and he gave me a good answer that, look, there's regulation in, you know, that will not allow him that would make me trust him, right? That I can give him my money, you know, to hold escrow for me and not disappear with my money. Because an aggregation of that money, even if it's 500 naira per person, can be 1 billion. And if he disappears with the money, I'm in trouble. We're all in trouble. So what will not allow him disappear is regulation, compliance with regulation. You must have that at the back of your mind as a founder. Data privacy, it is so critical nowadays. It is so, so important. Why? All of you, without fail, use data. You're going to depend on data. Your work is going to revolve around data. And the moment you start making money, the gateway, the target men of data protection in Nigeria will show up to see if you are compliant. And if you are not, you will use half of your profit as penalty when you haven't started. Have you heard of somebody that was fined 3 million naira even before starting? That kind of thing. So you don't want to fall there. You have to have data protection at your privacy and data protection, right? Scroll, please. There are parameters for all of this, and the NDPR and the Bureau. Now there's a robust regulation about it now. You even need to talk to what we call DCPOs or DPCOs, data protection compliance officers, or organizations rather. Yeah, there are some accredited ones that can help you audit your system to be sure that you are data privacy compliant, so that you don't fall victim. Even DPCOs get trained, you know, to render the advice or to audit your system. So that's something you need to be thinking about. Key documentation. I'm sure all of you have heard all of this somewhere at some point or the other. I heard somebody say they have raised $10,000. Obviously, at some point they must have, you know, come across many of these things. You know, but essentially, shareholders agreement. Mr. A and Mr. B come together and say, look, let's start this entity. On what terms are you starting? Is it gratis? Is it on religious basis? Are you dashing me your knowledge? What are we putting in together? Who's going to be director? Who's not going to be? You know, all those things. What are we going to put in? What are we going to take out? How are we going to share dividends? when we start making money, how are we going to raise money? And all that will be, how are we going to ensure we're protected when we start getting more investors so that we're not diluted? Those are questions you need to ask yourselves and put it in the shareholders agreement. Incorporation documents, those, all of you would know those. Those are CAC, what we call Corporate Affairs Commission, documentation that really establish you as an entity in Nigeria. Right now, Nigerian government has almost zero tolerance for non-incorporation, right? Almost zero. You see that there's more stringent regulation now on entities, and it's simple. It's because of money laundering and terrorism financing. Everybody wants to be sure that your business, especially those of you that your business actually has internet implications, right? They want to be sure that, number one, they can track what you're doing and know that your monies that you're pushing out and bringing in or passing through your platform or your app are not money laundering activities. Neither are they financing terrorism. But more importantly, they also want to tax you. So that's why they want you to register. Yeah. So employee contracts, I don't need to talk about that. If you're going to have employment, you have to be sure that you have the right things so that you put in the right terms so that you're not sued by and I promise you that many disgruntled employees out there, many employers too are useless, but employees too can be useless. So a contract is what determines these things. Just stick to the contractual terms. Intellectual property agreements, licensing. At some point, you will need to license your intellectual property. When your franchise gets big, there's something called, it's just, if you look at Cold Stone, you see that everywhere you see Cold Stone, you see what's that pizza place? Domino's. Right. So that's co-branding. There's some licensing agreement there. There's co-branding, opportunities. But there's a whole lot in the intellectual property space, a whole lot. But the first thing is that you own it. Once you own it, you can license it. You can actually expropriate it. You can sell it if you want, assign it. You can do anything you want because it confers on you a whole lot of rights for several years. And when your company is being acquired or there's a merger or you're thinking of raising funds, the goodwill, your intellectual property right is actually, your intellectual property valuation actually comes into place, for evaluation. People like Google, their logo is worth billions of dollars. Our expectation is that yours too will grow and be in billions. So you need to protect it and license it right. All those will have to deal with agreements, non-disclosure agreements, non-circumvention, all sorts of things. I'm sure you know all of these because data information is key. You don't want people taking information from you, source codes, all sorts, and just going to create their own. Somebody I knew was creating an app and they were developing it for several months. And one of the developers actually went and created something very, in fact, the same thing. And they came to me and were like, oh, we need to do something about this guy. I'm like, okay, what are the terms on which you engage this guy? And they said there was no contract. Oh, sorry, this will be more difficult. It was proof. There was proof that it was their source code that this guy took. But all of that, those are things you need to be conscious about. Next slide. Quickly. Let's go ahead. Okay, so key documentation, continued investment agreements. Unless you want to continue to take your family's money for life to fund this thing, which is called bootstrapping, your family, your friends, at some point, people will say, wait a minute, is your business not growing? Why are you pouring all our money inside this thing? So you probably need to invite investments. And in doing that, you must sign agreements. These agreements would, the terms of the, of the investments, what they're getting back, is it going to be staged? When is it vesting? All those are investment agreements. The simple agreement for future equity, the safe agreement, the safe is something else you can, that you could use, there is also some sort of investment agreement, or it comes out because it brings less, investors find it easier. And really, even founders like it a lot now. It's something that was created to give founders a lot of window to explore that investment space without a lot of liability. Independent contractor contracts, that is third parties that you're engaging. Are you still engaging someone to, developers, who are not employees? Those are independent contractor contracts. Of course, lease, if you're renting places, if you're, leasing vehicles, leasing equipment, all those coming. Scroll down, please. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. Well, so this is the intellectual property. I think I've said pretty much everything I need to say on intellectual property. Assess your IP protection that you might be eligible for, right? Create the intellectual property inventory, categorize your proposed startup products and services. It just means be mindful of what you're doing and just create, protect. That's it. Create and protect, create, register and protect. There was something we used to call the IP watch. Some international companies still now, they actually do still check the registries of trademarks in developing countries to see if anybody is trying to infringe, is trying to register something very similar or the same thing, and the moment they spot it, they file a protest, So you'd have to be mindful of your intellectual. Next slide, please. Your intellectual property protection, copyright, trademark, trade secrets, industrial designs. How do you protect? By registering it and exploiting it yourself. Don't register it and keep it. Let everybody know you're using it. Push it around. Commerce. Put it on all your stuff, or everything relating to your business. Right? Use that logo. Use that, and if it's copyright, then apart from the fact that copyright vests for software, copyright covers software, not trademark. Apart from, of course, you can have a logo for the company, but the work itself, the source code, is covered by copyright, right? Copyright is the intellectual property right that takes care of that. It vests automatically once it satisfies the conditions of originality, independence, and all those things. Basically, that it was your work. Even if it's an improvement on previous work, you can still get copyright on it, provided you can show some research and some, industry. But that itself is not enough, because historically that was enough, and you didn't have to announce it, historically, that you have copyright in this. But with time, it was necessary to create that copyright notification procedure at the Nigerian Copyright Commission, to announce to the whole world that, look, even though I own this copyright, I want to announce that I own it. So they will put it in a database for you, they'll check it, and you bring them samples and stuff, and then they'll put it. Of course, it has to be fixed on a, for copyright to cover it, that your work must be expressed on a material, on a document of some sort. Document doesn't mean paper. It could be CD, it could be anything, it could be the way you express source codes, right? So yeah. And of course, once you protect it, it can be enforced. Somebody infringes, you go to court, right? There's arbitration now for it. There's mediation. You can do any of those. And of course, there is more success in it now than before, a whole lot more than before. Next slide. I'm almost done, I think. Yeah, this characterizes what the patent is, the trademark, and what the copyright is. What distinguishes them, this characterizes. What is the character of it? The next slide will explain. I don't think I need to go through this because of time, but it basically shows that patent is the idea, trademark is the logo or the name, copyright is that idea that is expressed in hard form, right? The patent is, the drug, the medication, for instance, that, cures so. something that was not curable before, or that, I mean, you've all said brilliant things about tracking something, tracking spam. Is it doing anything beyond what already existed? Then that can be patented. That can attract a patent. But if it's the same thing, right? If it's the same thing that already exists in the Nigerian market, if it's the same thing, that's why you need to have your USP, your unique selling point, something that is over and above what other people have demonstrated. It's always important to be able to demonstrate that clearly. Otherwise, you may not be able to benefit from patent rights, but you might be able to, you most likely will be able to get trademark and copyright if you have any, but patent, you may not, if you cannot demonstrate that improvement upon an invention that has existed before. So pay attention to that, rather. Next slide. Yeah, so what's the law? This is the law. The agency, you can see the agency, the Commercial Law Department of Ministry of Trade and Investment, and the Nigerian Copyright Commission for Copyright. Yeah, but the law is there. I'm not sure, you can go and read the law if you want, but you might also need lawyers to help you interpret the law to you. Next slide. I hope I'm almost done. Yes, so this is the right, this is the right that is conferred on you. For patent is 20 years from the date of filing the application. So imagine, of course, it's renewable, but imagine that you are chopping the benefit of your registration. Sorry, chopping means enjoying, the benefits of this hard work you're having now for 20 good years. And imagine, the longer you enjoy it, the better your brand, the more valuable your brand is, which means if your patent, right, is really authentic, right, your trademark also, it has a bearing on the trademark because it increases in value. I mean, there was a time I was looking at the budget of Pfizer, for instance. Pfizer had, I think their budget for that year for their trademark, for their intellectual property protection was $1.2 billion. That was their budget for that year alone. So yeah, you must pay attention to it because you have a lot to benefit. You also have a lot of work to do. All right. So these are the benefits of it. And for registration, there's nothing critical about, there's nothing complicated about it. Just have your documents demonstrate that you are the owner, you are the creator, you are the one that, owns it. Of course, these rights do not vest in individuals except copyright. For trademark and patent, okay, your patent can vest in individuals, but trademark would typically vest in a registered entity, right? So note that as well. But typically, all of them, once you have your company registered, present your documents, somebody can help you put those things together and you can have them registered. Yeah. Your copyright lasts for the life of the owner. Next slide. You enjoy it. If anybody touches it, you can sue. So what are the key takeaways? Well, the Startup Act. I'm not sure the last time I spoke here, I think it was a startup bill that was existing, but the president in October signed this into law. And so all the benefits, the incentives for startups now can vest. The act is aimed at ensuring that Nigeria's laws and regulations are clear, planned, and work for the tech ecosystem. It's actually targeted at the tech ecosystem. The startup support and engagement portal, which you can visit. Some of benefits are what? Training and capacity building for startups through meaningful partnerships, tax incentives, which is great because if you're a founder, you really need some of these tax incentives to help you stabilize before anything. There are some exemptions from payee and all of that. Support with regulators, they'll be very happy to help out with all these things. You can get grants and loans. How yet, I don't know, but obviously it's in the plan, right? But once you are labeled as a startup, you will have access to these incentives. And of course, for you to have access to incentives, you must be a registered entity. So I'd say this is, in a nutshell, what I'll wait for questions, really. Yeah, this is all for me now.
Thank you very much. Yeah, there'll be questions. I see questions, but we'll take the questions together after the second presentation by Mr. Israel Aye. Already I see 2 questions on the board, and I know others might have. So we'll take the questions after the second presentation. Just keep your questions right there waiting. Okay, Mr. Israel, are you ready? Israel, are you having some problems? Okay.
Sorry, I was speaking all along. I didn't realize that you couldn't hear me.
Okay, we couldn't hear you.
Oh dear, yeah. So I'm so sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so just give me a second. I'm trying to call up my slide.
Okay.
In a minute. I have a much shorter slide. Is the one I want to. That one.
Okay.
Now hang on a second. For some strange reason, it just keeps taking me back to this. Hang on. Okay, so just confirm. Yeah, I think it's up. Just confirm if you can see it.
We can't see yet.
Okay, I don't know what the problem is now.
You are able to share, right?
It says I can,
Okay.
but once I tap it.
Okay, we're seeing you now. Yeah,
come up?
You're up now. You're up now.
Okay, fantastic. So just very quickly, let me begin by this Institute platform to the director and to Mr. Bake and all the staff to be able to engage with these very brilliant minds. And well done to all the founders for the great work you're doing. And a lot of compliment to my colleague Bayo for such a comprehensive presentation so far. So I'll do my best not to repeat anything Bayo has said, which really should be a vote of thanks and quitting, because it feels like he has said everything. Yeah, Bayo, great job. All right, but just one quick point to make about formation, and I wouldn't dwell on that so much. Just one quick point to make about formation is, and it's probably to repeat something that I've heard Ifedi say so very eloquently a couple of so times, that I know that the Institute itself emphasizes the need for you to be duly registered. But I should mention that, the lawyer's input is not necessarily registration. I mean, we can help with that. And indeed, the Founders Institute had gone a step further to ensure that whether you come to Bayo or myself, that we provide that service to you at a discount. But the potential value we can bring to you is greater than registration. As a matter of fact, if you go directly to CSU, you probably will find someone to register it for you. I know that sounds a bit the way it sounds, but it's true. Okay, so what you're really looking at this phase is structuring, and from a design point of view, you want to begin with the end in mind, and because you're at seed level, there is the tendency for even you to estimate what you're doing.
And if you're going to be building a skyscraper, and you probably can afford to only just lay the foundation, we can possibly help you see the skyscraper. And then, you can then take it in phases. So the value that the lawyer brings to you is far greater than just registration. That's an administrative activity, but the greater value is structuring, and it can then go into just a variety of the things that I believe Bayo had spoken about. So I'll move along very quickly. And he touched on some of these ones, so I wouldn't necessarily dwell on them. The typical documents you would need, some of these are listed. So what I'd done was to share, I think, in fact, it's a more comprehensive slide pack, and I would probably just give permission for it to be shared to the founders. So perhaps for those who book office hours with me, then we can dwell on anything that is of interest to you. I probably pause. I sort of focused on this a bit. So as soon as you've stress tested your idea, you've probably piloted. It wouldn't be very long before you get into fundraising. That's another area where you can easily lose you lose your business idea. Now, the Founders Institute generally, through the various instructors and mentors, will help you navigate that landmine very carefully. But some of the issues that you potentially would face at this point will be vesting schedule, whether to apply or not. Indeed, if you have more than, of course, you have 2 or more founders, probably will co-opt a few other persons, on the basis of equity. But then, how does that vest? That founders get vesting credit for time already served with the company. What amount of money will the investor be entitled to receive on sale of the company or any other liquidation event? What is the scope of the veto right of the investors? Will investors be entitled to redemption rights? What frequency will financial statements? What frequency will financial statements be provided to investors? Of course, the typical investor, maybe not the typical one, but if the investor wants to micromanage, they probably want to literally just have viewing rights to those kinds of documents. And sometimes founders just want a little bit of space to create and to grow. And so there is the trust me type exchange, but it's good to have this kind of conversations in advance. So these issues will be contained in either the vesting schedule, the term sheets, where the term sheets will be maybe with investors, advisor agreement where you have advisors, a shareholders agreement. By mentioned that a cap table, that's got to be right. The tendency or the temptation is for founders to allot, all of the equity in the entity and then the cap table is just so wrong, and you can't accommodate investment. Hopefully, this program sort of navigates you through that as well. And then the almighty safe, simple agreement for future equity, to promissory note, management right letters, and on and on. So those are some of the things. The maintenance type agreements, I believe Bayo sort of dwelt on those a fair bit. Intellectual property was somewhere he also dealt with somewhat exhaustively, so I wouldn't bore you so much with it, but just to regale you with some of the sites. And maybe to add that if you think about Microsoft today, it's a $2 trillion company. Same for Apple, I believe. But if you were to look at its physical assets, I'm not sure that their physical assets will be up to $100 billion. But that's and there's no science or fact, or there's no data or evidence to what I've said, but that's just my sense of it. But a lot of value is captured in goodwill, and the the sort of physical representation of goodwill would be your logo, or your logo, which is a very, very viable intellectual property. And it's important to have to stay ahead of these things, to really make your lawyer your best friends. I mean, think about these brands and their value in the market without these representations. As simple as they are, they've come to just be symbols of quality over the years. So he talks a bit about patent. So if you're designing something, and I think one of the founders, I believe the gentleman who was doing the competition to Truecaller, said a patented aspect. I was quite impressed with that. But, you know, it's to continue to document, you know, all the other sort of remaining parts and to patent them, and to perhaps even have an international patent strategy. You know, these things definitely cost money, but it's good to think ahead. Maybe the planning part of it doesn't cost that much money yet, but you certainly can stay ahead of these kinds of things. But my point is, don't despise your days of little beginning. You may be small today, but it's only because you're a seed. But potentially within what you're creating is the next world beater. And if you believe, then your actions today should be evidence of the fact that you believe. So a good case study here, the telephone. So there's a gentleman called Antonio Meucci. You know, he indeed in time may have invented the gramophone, the telephone, but the person who has the credit for it and the dollars to support the credit is Graham Bell. Difference is that he patented it ahead of Antonio Meucci. Okay, so the reasons why you should have been also well talked about. I don't think there's any point taking you over that so much. Again, let me just see if there's anything here. Okay, so this is an overview of the startup. At the time this was presented, was a bill. It's been passed into an act, and again, so I can go through that a bit. So a couple or so points to flag here is that thankfully there's a piece of legislation now that recognizes the effort you're making and creates that sort of boundary you require to grow. You know, and some of the highlights include a special certification for startups. Now you find down the road that those certifications are not just, you know, for fun. Indeed, they will be the basis for the grant of tax incentives. That's number 3 there, pioneer status incentives and other tax reliefs. And startups with at least 10 employees, where 60% of the employees have no prior work experience within 3 years of graduation or any vocational training, have access to percentage-based tax relief. You know, that would also entitle you to participate in seed fund, which would be released in time. By the way, so a few states are domesticating this, and perhaps we would see a situation where states will begin to compete for being the most favorable environments or environment for startups. So bridges the gap between regulatory bodies and startups, you know, similar to what you have today with the one-stop shop for maybe inward moving businesses. Thankfully, because one of the things that people stumble at the startup phase is statutory and regulatory compliance, even becoming aware of them and, you know, engaging. Hopefully this will be brought within the same sort of house, and then people can go through those very quick, carefully. Provides for incubation programs, which is the phase prior to acceleration, such as you are going through now, and then creates a legal framework for startups. It provides for what qualifies a company to register and obtain startup status, and creates an institutional framework for startups, establishes the National Council for Digital Innovation. The council has powers over startups and the responsibility to formulate policies, and then enhances the training of talents, creates an enabling environment for tech-based startups, and positions the Nigerian ecosystem strategically. So that's That's it in a nutshell. As it was as I was introduced, I am a founding partner of the commercial and energy law practice for purposes. You probably focus more on the commercial, and maybe one of the things I remember that the director FI Abuja said I was founder my law, but that's a dated piece of information. Actually, my law, we've sunset it. So we've actually got into this space and tasted failure. And then so I'm part of another startup that actually participated in this program just a little under a year ago. And that's called One Work, which is a marketplace for professional services. So by and large, we understand the pains of startup and probably provide our support not only from the point of view of law, but indeed from the point of view of the business. And I've been looking forward to having office hours with a couple of you, as many as we probably need to book, and be your sounding board and probably help you refine your startup idea, even as you prepare to take on the one. Thank you very much for listening, and I'd like to end this here. All right, Abaka.
Thank you, Saye. Thanks a lot, guys. So we'll move quickly into the Q&A session. I have two questions already, one from Abubakar Ghana and the other one from Lawrence Atta. Now, if you have questions, just indicate. You could use the, just let me see it. I'm not on video, put the sign, the emoji for your sign. Yeah, so next is Emeka, but let me take the questions on the platform first. It says, okay, Emeka, Abaka Ghana wants to know, is there a way for him to check if he has infringed on any intellectual property with his digital solution? Is there a way he can verify, in case he's doing it innocently, I suppose, if he has infringed on any intellectual property with his digital solution? So, Bayo Israel, who wants to take that?
I would suggest perhaps that you should try registering it. And if it is available, then you will be presumed to be the one that is entitled to the intellectual property. But you know, something else I say to people when they say, oh, but you know, intellectual property doesn't work in Nigeria. I say to them, you know, you can use intellectual property as a shield, or you can use it as a sword. My sense is that you probably just want to use it more as a shield, particularly if you're not a speculator. You know, so once it's available to be registered, register it, and unless it is otherwise proven, then at least within the Nigerian space, you'll be the first in time. You know, that will be my other than that, you probably want to take out a newspaper advert and say, well, please speak now, forever hold your peace. Have I violated your intellectual property? I doubt that anyone will do that.
Okay, so we'll take the second question. This one is from Lawrence Atta, going straight to Bio. It says, okay, about copyright. Can I copyright a code in our code base that provides a solution that other escrow services have never used before?
Yes, because under the Copyright Act, that's literary work. I mean, it's something you have created and automatically attaches to you. The moment you have created it, you have a copyright attached to it already to you, but you should also do the notification at the NCC. That's the Nigerian Copyright Commission. Yeah, to give you better protection, pretty much notification, right? It doesn't stop people from stealing, by the way, but you would have tried.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Emeka, Abaka, your hands going down. I suppose you don't have question, but Emeka should.
Okay, thank you very much. I truly appreciate this. I have lots of questions, but I can't exhaust them here. So I actually
you take them during the office hours.
Yes, I know, I know. But please permit me to ask up to 4, just quickly.
4.
The other ones are personal. I'll discuss them later on with them. Thank you for the presentation. I feel so excited already listening to you. I wanted to ask what's the difference between normal legal officers and the legal team that is here, but just listening to you, I can see clearly, because sometimes when I speak to many lawyers and I talk to them about IP protection, they're like, what are you saying? You know, so I'm excited with that. So my first question are bundled. So I wanted to patent a particular application I built one time, and they said that in Nigerian law does not allow for patenting software. So I got a bit confused that you can only copyright it. And I felt, okay, it's a new creation. It's not, there's a lot of elements of new stuff that is there. So why is that? And sometimes I really get confused. I know it was presented, difference between IP and patents, IP protection and patents. And just also bundled up to that question is some of the things that affects us from meeting legal officers to help us protect our stuff is charges, costs. And that's really, everyone is careful and a bit hesitant, but we know down the road it helps us. How are the charges made? What's the standard process? And how can it be easy for startups like us who may not be able to afford all of these legal fees? All of these questions are one. The second question is, so I hear big companies that start up and then gradually they keep scaling, like they keep getting investments, and you hear things like diluting shares, selling shares, upgrading number of shares, and you're just wondering how that works. How would I give somebody 50% share? I have 50% share, new investment comes in, all of those dilution, like it just confuses me. Then what are the key ingredients of non-disclosure agreements? I know I can't get everything here, but like, what does it, in terms of what does it exactly do? And finally, our companies, by the grace of God, is going to scale beyond Nigeria into Africa and other countries. What's the best roadmap? For me, I at first, when I started, I felt, okay, register a company in America, one in Canada, maybe Europe later, then so probably some African countries. But I know it's expensive. And I do know that, I don't know if there are charges that you are meant to pay every year. What's the best roadmap? How do you go so that when these things start having other international locations, you can progress, you know, what's the channel? Thank you.
No, I'll honestly confess, I never took notes of all of those questions. Ifedi, Bayo, Israel, I hope you guys were paying attention. These guys have so much questions. And honestly, I don't even have an idea of some of these things. So Ifedi, Bayo, and Israel, there are some questions also on the chat box. If you could just, you know, be replying to them also on the chat and verbally answer any one of them. Emeka has a 5-in-1 question or something like that. So please, whichever part you can.
I think for me to, what I see here is that he has a few peculiar questions peculiar to him. But I think the general one I'll answer, the one that applies to everyone, which is the difference. Why is copyright? Why is his software not patented? If you look at the slide I presented, each right has characteristics. So you need to look at what you are creating to determine what right you'll be entitled to. Software is deemed literary work. You know, you write source codes, you actually write those things. So when you write it, you express it on something, and then you take it there. It's only software that can copyright that can cover it. Why not patent? Patent is actually an idea, like a vehicle. Okay, take what's the vehicle called? Elon Musk's car, Tesla, for instance. Before Tesla, there are probably, electric cars, people who are trying to have electric cars. But somebody must have patented the first electric car. Because before that, cars were using gasoline. Before that, maybe steam. But cars were using gasoline. And when electric cars were created, it was an idea. It is that idea actually that is patented. It is the idea that becomes an invention that is patented, not the car itself. The car is covered by a different set of rights: trademark for the logo, design rights, right? But not, so your iron, for instance, even your regular iron, the idea that, we can heat filament to actually apply it to smoothing clothes. That's the idea. It is that idea that is patentable. Recently, during COVID, I was involved in something, there was a whole lot of people were dying, of course, when in 2000, when there were no ventilators. Ventilators were said to be expensive. But I had somebody who approached the NASA. The NASA is the airspace, whatever, in the US, who had a patent for what? Ventilators. But was it that ventilators didn't exist before? No, they existed in the US. They existed everywhere, but they were huge. But what he had an idea for was a ventilator that was small, compressed, and cost efficient, that could be portable, so that if somebody was having breathing difficulties, that you could basically carry it. If you go to National Hospital, their ventilators are huge, right? But these patented, these portable, ventilators, you can carry them around, and they are less expensive. They are even less, difficult to produce. You just assemble them. So NASA had invented that. NASA had the patent. The mountains, the patent, right? That is part of your exploitation. That's why you have to protect, because NASA had it, they registered it, and then they licensed it to our people to come and use it here. Not initially for, commercial whatever, but eventually they're meant to scale, right? But the initial, idea was getting people to survive in Nigeria. And some people put money behind it and got the patent down. But what was it that was patented? The idea that, look, air should not be carried in giant machines. How can we reduce the size of the machines? Don't forget that your laptop today used to be, when Charles Babbage first used a computer, it was like 4 rooms, literally. So all that is an idea. The improvement on the invention, that idea is what is patented. Not even the body of it. No, the body of it is covered by different sets of rights. So that's that. So that's why you have to understand what you're creating and what rights will cover it, right? And you won't be disappointed. As to your other questions, I think you need to set up office hours with Mr. Israel. Okay? Because if anybody wants to take time, all of this.
Yeah, so that we don't, founders, please take advantage of the office hours with the legal people. Abubakar, you had your hands up. You still have a question?
Yeah, it was just a follow-up question by Mr. Israel regarding the intellectual property infringement. So would it be safe to assume that at, let's say, the formation and the funding stage, startups do not necessarily need to worry about international infringements, but rather the local ones?
Sorry, I didn't quite get the question. It's muffled.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you can. Go over the question again.
Okay, so initially I asked Mr. Israel, regarding IP infringements. So my initial question was, how do we essentially check if we've infringed on any IP? And Mr. Israel responded and said a good way to start is essentially to just try to register it. And if you see that you're the first, then congratulations, essentially. So my follow-up question is, okay, that being the case, would it be safe to assume that startups at the funding as well as the formation stage, do we not necessarily need to worry about international infringements, but rather we should just worry about local infringements at this stage? Or essentially, that's just my question.
So Israel, you're muted. Yeah. You're muted.
Sorry, all the time I'll be speaking here because I can see myself. I thought that I can hear me. Yeah. Excellent question, Abubakar. But again, look, from my point of view, it is situational. It depends on what you're creating, what market you're targeting. If you're piloting here, it's probably just wise. I mean, it's probably smarter to just sort of protect it locally. And then when you're prepared to scale, then you can start to have a conversation around international, global, protecting it globally. Yeah. But just something else I wanted to say that sort of dropped from Emeka's question. I agree with Bayo that the rest of it is somewhere between office hours and then leveraging the platform to get free legal consultation. Because I saw Emeka just want to do all his lawyer consultations in 2-hour question, So at the very minimum, take advantage of the platform FI has given to you, and then take your consultation to office. But jokes apart, it seems to me that you were making a distinction between patent and intellectual property. So intellectual property is the umbrella. And so whether it's copyright, patent, industrial design, whatever else, all of those are intellectual property. And maybe one way to distinguish it is between intellectual property and real estate. So property being, a right in law. So this is saying that whatever you have created from your intellect, can be protected in one form or the other. And then the rest of it will be what Bayo, I believe, has explained. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that. So we'll go on to, I'm seeing some questions on the, the common Delaware company. Meanwhile, Ifedi, please hang on. After this question, you'll help us smoothing out this equity collective things. I think some of them didn't quite understand, so you help us with that after this. But before that, John Akobi wants to know, we have startups in Nigeria incorporated in the US. Are there advantages for having a Delaware company, especially from the angle of fundraising? So,
indeed, I was going to suggest that if Ifed is available, he's probably even best positioned to answer that as well, because he would have seen quite a number of those types of situations.
Okay.
I would like to hear his response on that.
Ifed, the Delaware question and also the equity collective. You could do the Delaware registration first.
Okay, thank you, Senior, for the privilege. It was a pleasure, listening to your presentation as always. Okay, about registering in Delaware. So it's really neither here nor there. There is no, from a regulatory perspective, there's nothing compelling a founder to do any of those offshore registrations. However, investors are usually more comfortable if they invest in a company that is registered in a jurisdiction where they have some level of familiarity, they understand the laws and all of that. So usually investors will ask, and because Silicon Valley and the Delaware registration kind of drove the whole venture capital industry or space. So a lot of times you hear Delaware, but apart from Delaware, you have founders who register in the UK, you have founders who register in the Scandinavian, Latin America and all of that, but it all depends on where where your funding is coming from, however, from a patriotism point of view, I'd also say that as a founder, especially if you have some level of bargaining power during investment conversations, you can insist that investors, if they see the value in what you're building, should invest in your local entity, because what usually happens is that you do that Delaware registration, and the Delaware company will still come in to acquire the local company and become a majority shareholder, or sometimes, depending on the structuring, the Nigerian company becomes a wholly owned subsidiary of the Delaware company. So why not invest in the local company and then sort out whatever apprehensions you would have with a very solid investment agreement, and get a good lawyer who understands the Nigerian legal ecosystem to sort out the shareholders agreement and all other company structuring issues. That's my personal opinion on that. There's absolutely hard and fast rule. It will all depend on what what you're doing at the time, or what's going on with your company. But what I don't advise founders to do, I see a lot of founders doing that, is you just had an idea, you probably don't even have a working MVP, probably a prototype, and then you're scrambling to, you're rushing to Delaware to go and register, thinking that, some people think that it's some kind of silver bullet, that once you have a Delaware company, investors come chasing you. It doesn't work that way. As a matter of fact, you should register when it becomes absolutely necessary. And I think, Mr. Israel mentioned that in one of the, responses he gave, that, if you're building in the Nigerian market for now, focus on that. And as you scale and you think that you need to serve other markets, or the need arises maybe from, from an investor, if it's an investor, if an investor is making that demand, then it becomes a conversation that can be had. But otherwise, you're actually exposing yourself to a lot more, you have to start dealing with managing regulatory compliance issues and some of the, financial obligations that come with registering in multiple jurisdictions and having to make sure that you're not running foul of the law. And you don't want to be dealing with all of those kinds of distractions while you're trying to build a nascent company. So that's my take on the Delaware question. But I am hoping that Mr. Israel and Bayo, if may also enrich that conversation.
Yeah. So, Mr. Bayo, anything to add?
Yeah, I see your point, Fedi, and yeah, but I've seen situations where potential lenders or potential investors were actually unwilling to send money to a Nigerian entity. They wanted to put the money in the US entity because they were afraid of repatriation policy or potential policy somersaults in Nigeria that could prevent them from, they wanted to hold something in the US, even though the company in the US was still shell, or still had no assets as such. So there was really nothing to hold. They were still more comfortable with disbursing to that US entity, which they knew was wholly formed by the Nigerian founders, right? The dynamics of that will depend on the individual situation and individual lender or investor, as it were. But I mean, I agree with Ifedi on, that structure. But when you do come across people who don't want to put money in Nigeria directly, you cannot blame them. You need to create something that will work for them because you are the one that needs the money or the investment. So it will just be, you just need to, you require proper advice at that point to know the best structure for you, that works for the lender or the investor, so that's it. That's what I'll add to that. It's not all the time that the investors are quick, that investment agreements, that direct injection of funds into Nigerian economy works for foreign investors. No.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you actually. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do this.
I was just saying that you could try to be a little bit of an Igbo man like Mr. Mecca and try to intimidate the investors into investing in a Nigerian entity, just like Mr. Mecca has intimidated us with 20 questions in one.
Your point is valid, actually. It's a better, more direct structure. It's a better, more direct structure, but it usually will depend on the investor. Yeah. It's a more direct structure. And it's not their fault. I mean, people's monies get
it's not, yeah.
Their monies get trapped here. Look at the airlines. Look at the airlines. See what happened with them. They had hundreds of millions of dollars trapped here. And that's why airfares became priced for buying property.
Okay. So we see founders were learning all of this. If Eddie, Israel, and Mr. Bayo, you're just going to talk, if Eddie, please start about the equity collective. Then we'll push all questions. Founders, listen to me. One thing I know about legal issues is it's an ever rolling thing. It keeps on going on. We will never stop. So we're going to do this. If Eddie will talk to us about the equity collective, the FIS equity collective and CDS stuff. Then whatever questions you have, book office hours, Mr. Bayo Mole is our legal partner. Bombard him with as much questions as you want, and all of that. Mr. Israel is an alumni. Get in touch with him. Mr. Ifedi is Lagos's own version of Lady A, is the MD of FI Lagos. So you've got these people who are willing to help you with your legal issues. John Uzo is worried about their fee. Why not just knock on their doors first? Knock on their door and see what you can get from them. So Ifedi, please, equity collective, it's a legal thing, the legal perspective. Please shed more light on it. Then we'll close with that and hand over to Lady A. Equity collective.
Okay, thank you, Shegun. I will, because of time, I would say that maybe we should share the FAQs on the equity collective so that everyone can read them. If anybody still has questions, they can set up office hours with me. I'm happy to walk them through. But just to respond to the specific question that I see in the charts, Barnabas is asking why we're using a CDS agreement as opposed to a SAFE. Well, so in the first place, there is some kind of a debt situation that exists in this instance, even though we're not very bullish on pointing that out. So I want you to just reflect on just the conversation you've had this evening. Maybe because I am in the room this evening, so I can imagine if you wanted to have an hour of Mr. Israel's time or an hour of Mr. Bayo's time, how much you think that would cost, in terms of consultation fees. And then think, extend that to all the mentors that you've had access to, both during sessions and office hours, and some of them who are eventually going to join your advisory, and all of that. So the Founder Institute program is actually brought to you more or less at no cost, right? What you pay to get into the program, if you're observant, you'll see that it was called an entrance fee. It's actually a fee that grants you access into this network. But in terms of the value and the sweat equity and all of the effort that goes into helping you to build that structure for your business, the program is brought to you at it's more like a debt situation for you, and that's the reason why a convertible debt a convertible debenture stock agreement is used. Now, for your other question, where you are asking, by the way, you also need to realize that what we have is, a peculiar version of that, CDS, where you don't have the option to pay, because a convertible debt instrument ordinarily gives you the option to either pay, and has maturity dates, interest rates and all of that, or that, based on certain pre-agreed triggers, can convert into equity. However, in this instance, it can only convert into equity, and that's 2.5% of, of the equity in your company. And of course, like this is some kind of warrant. It's not even, we have all of 15 years to exercise. So, and in some cases, we never even get to exercise that as well, and doesn't grant the institute any board position, doesn't grant them any input in as to how you run your business. Now, the second question, where you're asking why the agreement should be governed by the laws of Delaware, so I'm sure that you would have kind of gotten a sense of why that is when Mr. Bayo was speaking, when we're having that conversation about investors insisting that founders should register in Delaware or in the jurisdiction where they have some level of mastery and familiarity with the laws if they want investments. So that's more the same way. Usually agreements, the laws that govern agreements will largely depend on what the parties to the agreement, decide. I think there's a term for it, but I can't remember that now, So in this instance, for Founder Institute, what works for the Institute is for these agreements to be governed by the laws of Delaware. So it's easier for them in the, and I can tell you, we already have instances where founders, so they jump on the program, they find a way to keep maneuvering the conversation, and they don't issue the convertible, they don't sign the convertible debenture stock agreement, and they move past the contractual, the contractual due date, and they just keep getting all the value from the program. Then when they are done with the program, they tell you they are not going to sign. And these are some of the issues. For example, using that as an example, why an investor, which in this case is Founder Institute, will want to have that agreement governed by a body of laws that they are more or less familiar with, especially as it relates to dispute resolution. So I hope that helps. I'm seeing that you have another comment.
I'm thinking maybe take it. I was thinking. Yeah, it says I don't have a problem with the 2.5 equity. The issue is with the type of agreement we are to sign for it. There's a clear difference between the debt and the payment for service, which I understand we are to give equity rights of 2.5% in return for the service. Do we get Barnabas?
Yeah, his point is debatable, but just because I would want to leave the conversation now. I'd just say that he can me up privately and we talk this through if that helps.
Okay.
Israel.
Israel, yeah, Israel is an alumni. Yes, Israel. So, how did you ravel this, or what do you think about this? He's not worried about the value. He's just thinking, is it debt or payment for service? That's what I understand.
Sorry, my line dropped, so I sort of missed a part of the conversation.
Okay, so Barnabas is asking on the chat. It says, I don't have a problem with the 2.5% equity. We're talking about the collective now. The issue is with the agreement we are to sign for it. There's a clear difference between debt and the payment for service, which I understand we are to give equity rights of 2.5% in return for the service. So why is it signing a CDS agreement?
And that's the one to FI.
Yes.
Okay, well, I mean, the venture and part of essentially didn't see an issue with signing it because, again, look, I mean, for example, we had been, this wasn't our first rodeo. We've been around since 2015, working on all kinds of ideas, notably my law, but definitely the FI program gave us a lot of structure and gave us a lot of structure. And it's a condition precedent and with joining the program. So, I mean, for us, it's either we wanted to trade that for the value anticipated, or if you're going to get an argument, I think it's a good time to drop off the program.
Well, I think a simple answer to that may be, well, while I've not gone through the, the structure, I've not gone through the CDS, yeah? From the conversation I've heard, it's not unusual for people who are, in quote, early investors to get a percentage, right? Now, why are they investors? I'm not sure that you're paying for all you're getting. So somebody asked a question earlier about lawyers and how they get paid. I'll make it a little historical. Some of the biggest landowners in this country are lawyers, right? Not now, but historically. How? Because anytime there was a dispute on land, the lawyers would take on the case, and instead of getting paid, because the landowner usually hardly had money to pay, they took a portion of the land, at times 10%, at times 20% of the land mass. I mean, I know grandfather lawyers who pretty much own like an entire street that owned the entire street in VI because of that. I know people in different parts of Lagos, different parts of Oyo State that own massive swaths of land just because of that. So if lawyers advise you, they could take their fees now, or they could say, you know what, I'll have an equity. I want to stake my, I want to risk this thing with you. So if you succeed, we both succeed. If you don't succeed, so if I ask, who asked the question, Barnabas, what is 2.5% of zero? If you don't succeed, FI gets nothing. So it's in everybody's interest that you succeed, So I don't think it's anything to 2.5% is, neither here nor there. It's nothing to whatever. Depending on the value you're getting from this process. If you're not getting value from this process, then it might be excessive. But if you are getting value, if you're paying for the value upfront, then there might be no need for the 2.5 if you're paying full for the value. But if you're not, then in order to have an interest in seeing to your success, I think 2.5% may be not much, but it's totally your call. But I just thought to mention it, as in the way it plays out in real life. Even if it wasn't FI, if it was anywhere else, you know, somebody who you are owing can take equity. Or somebody who's giving you a service can choose to take equity. I hope that helps.
I think it did, it helped. It also made me realize that I'm in the wrong profession. I should have been a lawyer. I should have read law. You know, I mean, I would probably just not collect fee and just, you know, make a dispute and get pieces of land everywhere. Come on, why didn't you guys tell me all of this all along? Should have done this. Okay, Lady A, I'm handing over to you.
So thank you, everyone. I think we've come to the end of the session. I think we can move the rest of the conversation over to the office hours. So I'd like to say a very big thank you to our mentors, Bayo, Molly of Matrix, Israel of KNLP, Ifedi Eze of FI, Lagos, all legal practitioners. Thank you so much. And founders, like I said, you know, further clarifications will, you know, will be, you know, you can get further clarifications during office hours. So the FI policy, you know, is you're required to sign the equity collective, and it's clear that, you know, that's the way all of the work that the stakeholders in the FI community are putting in. That's, you know, our own way of being incentivized. Paying any of these mentors, lawyers upfront, the consultation fee alone, and, you know, your mentors, your directors, and we're all, you know, working hard towards the same goal. And it's a founder-friendly design that FI has, because it enables you to access all of this resource easily, as against, you know, wanting to get into maybe like a YC or other programs who, for example, put forward maybe a certain amount that they will be, you know, investing in your idea upfront. Then you have to go through the program, but you know how long that will take you to get into the program. A YC, for instance, you might be applying for several years. So the barriers to entry with FI is easier, and you get to get the feedback literally all for free, And the equity collective gets activated when you raise funding at a certain amount, okay? So I'll encourage you, I think we've shared the link for the FAQs on the equity collective, and I set up office hours. I had office hours with one person today on equity collective, and we'll continue to do that. I'll be setting up, today is Wednesday, either Thursday or Friday, still on equity collective to answer, you know, what you have 3 lawyers, so please, you know, all your answer, your you know, consent should be answered through that, you know. So thank you, everyone. A pleasant evening. And I don't know if the mentors have advice to give, or, you know, the floor is open for, you know, just general interaction. And I think my own comment would be, well, there are just 10 of you left now, and we hope to, you know, take you all to the finish line, but it depends on you still, you know, putting all the effort. So more effort is required of you to do the needful, so that we can, you know, we want to be able to get you to traction, you know, traction before the program ends. So keep that in mind, because traction is what will attract investors. So, and office hours will be spending much longer time with you, 30 minutes at least. So we'll be combing through each, you know, project as we go along going forward. Not on Christmas Day or New Year Day, please. Okay. All right. So any other comments? Anyone wants to chip in anything, advice, or? Okay, everybody's tired.
I have one.
Okay, Abu. Yeah, please.
Mommy, could you please set up more office hours?
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So done. But where were you? I had office hours yesterday, you know, and today, 2 days running, I didn't see you. You're busy with epic sprints. You've done your epic sprint now, the assignments. Okay, so you see the assignments, okay, maybe as we're calling them, they are company building work, and these are activities that you're going to be doing continuously anyway as you run your business. So it's not that kind of assignment that you're doing for academic purposes and you dump and move on. No. So even if you come up with a new idea, you need to go through the same kind of company building work. So maybe we should start calling it what it is. It's company building work. That's what it is. It is. And you need to do it. And the more you do it, the better for you, for the business. All right. So, Uzo, John, you want to say something? Okay. All right. So bye, all. Thank you. Good
You're
night,
welcome.
everyone. Yeah.
Bye,
So, yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, God bless. Bye. Ifedi, thanks. So Israel is gone. Okay. Mr. Shegun, FI Abuja team. Catherine, we didn't see your face. Thank you.